did okay. I
Yeah.
was, as you can tell, early, and it worked.
All right. Um, all right. Well, welcome to the NC NICA podcast. I am Shawn Moore, Director of Coaching and Team Development, and joining me as always is my co-host Brian Russell, who did not change his name in Zoom, so you'll just have to fill in Brian Russell there. But Brian, you are, among other things, besides being the very first person to register as a coach in pit zone when coach registration opened up, you're also our league director.
Still league director, still figuring things out. That's exactly right. People are aware of my technical inabilities, but yes, on early 3 September, making sure Pit Zone was actually working for all our coaches to get in there.
And that was at let's see, 2:52 Pacific time. So that was five.
Add yeah, 3 hours, so just before 6
Yeah. That's a
o'clock.
little late for you.
I'm getting better, actually, Shawn. Yeah, like no,
So
seriously, like I'm up, quiet time, Abby to school, back, coffee, sitting on the couch. 8 or 9 is now my new norm. Open the
ooh.
computer. Yeah.
So for those of you new to the podcast, typically I get my first Google chat message from Brian at around 5:05. That was the way it was always like, oh, it's time to get up.
No,
There's
no,
this
no more.
started.
That is one thing I am not going to level up this season is my
That's
chats at 5 in the morning.
that's old Brian. That's past
That's old
Brian.
one. That's right. Yep. You get season 3 league director Brian. So
Season three league director Brian.
old
A
old
kinder,
dog
gentler.
and old dogs can learn new tricks, or we'll see.
So to give proper coach shout out for first to register, taking you out of it, let's
Yes.
recognize the very first non-staff member to register as a coach, and this comes as a shock, as no shock to anyone who actually knows this person, but Ron Chaney from the Stanley Shredders was our very first coach to register, and he was only narrowly beaten out by you. So I think not bad, but Ron Chaney, very first coach to get into pit zone and register, that wasn't a part of league staff, that wasn't testing the limits of pit zone to see if it was about to blow up.
Let's see if Ron is listening. Ron, send me your glove size. I'll send you a pair of league gloves for being the first one on there.
Oh,
Good
that's
job
that's
leveling up,
tricky.
Ron. Yeah,
That's tricky.
maybe one
All
of Ron's
right.
friends like Ron.
Right on.
Big
And
brother.
then rounding out our top three was Elise Freed and Michael Sweat. So excellent.
I'll dig through the box of stuff and get Elise and Michael something.
Box
Good
of
job.
stuff.
Top
Only
three.
if they respond because they heard it on the podcast.
There you go. Yep. There you go.
Oh.
Look at you driving, listening, driving,
Hey,
driving viewership. Oh my gosh.
I gotta do something. All right. So let's talk about a couple of things, but let's first talk about, I think, the biggest um sort of impact that we've had, and really like something that caused us to sort of postpone even taping this. And that was the aftermath of Hurricane Helene and what happened in Western North Carolina. So I was affected by it, but not nearly to the degree of a lot of our other teams and student athletes. But we definitely want to recognize that for a lot of us in Western North Carolina, this is a it's a pretty big blow to the thing that we love to do, which is be outdoors and mountain biking. So for those of you that aren't aware, currently Pisgah and Nantahala National Forests are completely closed, and that is bit pending a assessment by Forest Service officials and everything. But in to a large extent, like our ability to go out in the woods and mountain bike or really do anything that is something that we love to do has been impacted for what kind of seems like an open-ended period of time. And so we just wanted to kind of start off by saying, uh, we kind of recognize that there's a lot of difficulties that our teams, our coaches, and our student athletes in Western North Carolina are going to be going through over this next few months.
I think that's well said, Shawn. I do want to start by, sending our sympathies and, support out west. That was a doozy for sure, and it's going to take some time to recover for a lot of people. It was the blessing in all of it, though, was seeing this community, our specific community, come together to help, to share information, and to really, yeah, just come together like this community can do. And so I know this season is going to be different, and we'll talk about a couple of the differences already, just like you said, Shawn. We'll talk about the preseason stuff and some shifts, but there will be a season. I can confidently say for folks, there will be a season. It might look different for some across the state, and that's what I think I have to balance. People central and eastern part of the state can probably get to all the things and do all the things. People out west, that's going to be a challenge for some of them, and we want to be sensitive to that. But we don't. We want to provide the opportunity. And if I can just share one story, Shawn, about why I think it's important to have a season is I had a mom in Asheville on one of the Asheville teams out there email me. This is a week and a half ago, concerned that she would not be able to register her son as we open up registration on 1 October because she was very busy as the director of a relief organization. And I had to write back and say, ma'am, you don't worry about getting your son registered. There will be time to register your son. It's not a problem. We will be flexible this season to do that. But why was she asking, Shawn? Because I think she knows her son is going to really benefit from the team and the environment and the culture. And so, yeah, we'll build an opportunity for those things for our kids all across the state, but particularly those out west. I think it's going to be important if they are ready in a place to do it, to come and have all that fun that we know how to do here in North Carolina. Mountain bike week,
And
yeah.
even, some of the impacts to our families in Eastern North Carolina, because we had a coach who was registered for the WFA CPR OTBS 101 training weekend this weekend. And he is a lineman, and his wife emailed and said, can we give this spot up and get somebody else in there, because he's working in Western North Carolina with all of the recovery efforts. 100%. Like the amount of people that have come to the aid of Western North Carolina from not just all the parts of North Carolina itself, but from all over the country. Like we are seeing line crews from, up north, out west. Like they're just, everyone is coming because of the level and the magnitude of damage that's happened. And that also affected our Coach Retreat. So for those people who have been wondering what's going on with Coach Retreat, which was scheduled to be in Old Fort, we've had to postpone that. Old Fort was devastated. If you've seen some of the pictures, there was flooding in the entire town, and we don't even know what anything looks like out on the trails there, because they haven't even got to the point of that stage of the recovery. They're still trying to just have a livable place at this point. So we are kind of working on that, and that remains to be decided what we're going to do. But we will be updating everyone as we get more information about that.
It was so nice. You talk about just wonderful community. So nice to hear from the folks from Camp Grier in Old Fort last week who checked in with us to let us know that, hey, we know you got some things coming up and we want to have you. Shawn, could you believe that email we saw? Like,
I
yeah, you
know.
can come do the coach retreat. Camp Grier is fine. We're a big, relief center and like, and, thank you very much. But there's a lot of coaches in this league. They're not in any position to come do coach stuff. And just like you said, trails, who knows? Part of our coach retreat does involve writing. Go figure. So yeah, but so thank you very much, Camp Career. Love your willingness to host us, and we do want to come there and talking with the leaders there. The town wants us there too when the time is right. Invest
Yes.
in invest in the town, and yeah, and we want to do that. And so we want to do it right when we come. We want to come to help in some sense, and not just be kind of a user taker when we do that in Old Fort.
100%. All right. Well, I think to kind of segue into now the more positive aspects of things, and that is that, student athlete registration has been open now for a little over a week. It opened up on October 1st. one of the reminders that I really would like to get across to everyone is that those student athletes that maybe were eighth grade last year and are now high school, or were on a composite team and now they are have moved and they should be on a school-based team, don't invite them with a new invitation. They need to be moved from one team to the other. Just notify me and I can make that move for you. Also, if you have someone that maybe didn't participate last year, either as a student athlete or a coach, and now they've come back and they're like, "Hey, I want to, do this again." You need to email me and let me know to reactivate them. So they may have been deactivated last year and now you need them reactivated. I'm be more than happy to help with that. Just drop me an email. I just need their name, their email address, and what team they're with. And if it's a student athlete that needs to be moved, or a coach that needs to be moved to a different team, just let me know what team they're coming from and what team they're going to.
And because our audience of three demands really hard hitting facts, I pulled up Pit Zone, Shawn, 113 student athletes so far in our 10 days of registration. So about 10 a day. We're doing pretty good. 11 a
That's
day.
awesome. That's
That's pretty
awesome.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
All right.
and if I could on that, just because we are talking registration,
Yeah.
had a good call with Abby Walker earlier this week in Asheville. Head coach Pisca Rage out there says, yeah, it's uncertain for them. It is uncertain, trails and when can you get the team together? But she wants to. She wants to get that team together because she knows the power of it. So I just want to use that as an opportunity. We're thinking through. I'm talking with NICA. Can we get like national level sponsor support into that area? Who knows bike status for kids, coaches, whatever the case may be. I want to mention right now the scholarship fund, the league scholarship fund is open. Is that there's financial difficulty? That's exactly what that's for. Get that application in, and we basically, I think I've said this before, we use that Trek giveaway in the spring. The league pushes that into the scholarship fund. So thanks for contributing to that. That's going to help get some kids truly on bikes this season. So that is open. It's on the website scholarship form. Go ahead and send it in if you need.
Speaking of student athlete registration, we are now running the fifth grade pilot program. And we've had several meetings about this already. We had a interest meeting, then we had a follow-on meeting for those teams that definitely wanted to opt in. And so we had an opt-in meeting that was a training for them. And we've got, because of Helene, we've got a second sort of opt-in date and training set up. And so that originally the October 5th was kind of the deadline, but we've got a second opt-in deadline, and that deadline is going to be 1 November. This is for those teams that were you needed to talk about it, think about it. This is for you to refile that form, that interest form that was sent out earlier. And we're looking for, yes, we're in. Like that's the kind of the cutoff at this point is if you've talked about it and you want to do it, go with yes, we're in, and then we can send you that invitation to the second training. And that second training is going to be on November 5th at 8 p.m. It just takes about an hour, and it really is just a good overview of what to expect. Sort of a like guide to care and feeding of fifth graders on mountain bikes. Yes, Brian.
I'll summarize it for everyone. I think what we learned in some of that training, but I'll start with Jim Otto. That was not planned. Do you remember he chimed in
Mhm.
at the end? He goes, "Okay, everyone doesn't have to be super afraid of fifth graders. They're kind of like sixth graders." And so thank you, Jim, for like level setting. Everyone's talking concerns and everything, but because there are two leagues. Fall leagues in NICA doing the fifth grade pilot program. Their feedback is if a team goes all in, and what they mean by that is they actively recruit fifth graders, not just the fifth grader, but the parent to come support. You get a cohort of 4 to 5. That's a good group to work with. It's the ones and twos that, maybe, isn't going to be as successful. I think item 2, this is what you and I talk a lot about. When you look through the fifth grade toolkit, it looks a lot like NICA season practice plan. Start with skills and offer on the bike teamwork activities, go to games, go to short course, and then you're on the trail at some other point. So I think that's just the winning solution anyway. Fifth graders will work out okay. And then I think it's just an assessment of your team culture. You see the teams around the league that they've got the varsity athlete that's mixing it up with the sixth grader in the pit zone. and that's a good just team dynamic. And if you have that, then fifth graders will be successful. So yeah, got like 10 teams signed up for this already.
Yeah.
So
And I think too, like if you're a middle school team or a middle school composite team, thinking through like, okay, this is potentially a fourth year of coach eligibility kind of thing. Like I can get this coach in at the fifth grade with their student athlete and I can have them for 4 years rather than 3 years, much like with the high school. And, you know, a lot of times fifth graders, their parents are going to be much more receptive to the idea of participating with their child, more so than like if you got a high schooler. Their you know parents tend to just show up on game day kind of thing. That's what they're used to. But with a fifth grader, they're probably a little bit used to more of that hands-on ask, and so that's a good thing. But remember, like, don't you can't limit like we're only going to take you if your parent coaches, but this definitely worth making the ask for it so that you can kind of have that invitation out there for them to join your coaching staff. The other thing that I wanted, because this has come up in a couple of the comments that we had uh, about the pilot program, and it was talking about like how you decide what schools you can have as fifth graders on your team. And I don't want you to get in the weeds on that simply because that will all come out in the wash at the end whenever they actually adopt fifth grade as its own sort of program. And it won't be under a middle school, it'll be actually a separate kind of school program. Or if it's a composite, it'll just be the fifth grade part of your composite team. And it'll just be within the normal guidelines of boundaries for your composite team. So don't hesitate because of that. Like it's going to be a nightmare to figure out what team they're on. No, it'll be super easy because they'll be on the fifth grade team. And eventually that will be the case. Don't worry about it now. If you're curious and you're interested, just opt in and make it happen. All right. We've got some preseason updates. We already talked about coach retreat, but just to reiterate, we're kind of in a pause on that, and we will communicate more with you if you have specific questions about refunds. We will, as we figure things out, we'll start to communicate back with you about refunds. But if there's some need or something like that, just hit us up and we'll do our best to get that refunded to you. And then as far as the upcoming preseason event dates that we have, on November 2nd, there is going to be a grit event at Harris Lake. On November 16th, originally this was an adventure event that was scheduled for Old Fort. It's still going to be an adventure event, and we are looking for a new location potentially. And then on 7
we've got
December, what?
Yeah, we've got Lake Norman as our backup. So we're working Lake
Okay.
Norman. Again, we're just in a very I'll call it respectful position with Camp Grier and Old Fort. If 16 November looks supportable from them and we can do some good for them, that's probably a good thing to do.
Yeah.
Opportunity for folks to head out west and do some help, but we're probably another week or so away from knowing that.
Yeah. And then the last preseason event, which technically isn't a preseason event because it's in our season, is December 7th. That's another adventure event. And that will be at NC Car, which is a new location for us this year. And one that I think a lot of people will find interesting. And it's out in the eastern portion of the state. So just to be aware of where that's at. You can look up if you want to know where it's at. It's the North Carolina uh,
Center for Automotive Research.
that's it. I blanked on what the second C was for. Yes, North Carolina Center for Automotive Research. It is a auto racing and motorcycle racing facility. But there's actually something there for us as well.
20 plus miles of motocross trails out in the woods that I've ridden twice. Is kind of flat, does require some work. So the 7 December event is gonna have a Team Trail Core focus, but here, I'll say it again, and people will get sick of hearing it, but there is no perfect NICA venue. You always compromise on something. It's the trail or it's the parking or whatever. This one has a lot of nice things about it. From a logistics perspective, parking, camping, turnkey services, Porta Johns, they have their own EMS. Like it's built for events. And when the venue owner tells you, I'm going to turn the keys over to you for the weekend, you know how to do the mountain biking thing. I'm going to leave you alone. Okay. How much are you going to charge? Not a lot. Okay. Trails are a little bit rough right now. They're motocross trails. They got ruts and roots, but same thing with the trail boss there. Put the course where you want. So think about that. Kids, coaches go out, get to design maybe a little bit of the course, make some decisions on how it gets routed or do some work on it out there. So I think it's a nice opportunity. And then you come back and race in the spring.
That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, I
And
think it's a
thinking
good.
about if they've got on-site EMS, like the fact that one of our risk factors is not catching on fire, like then they're probably gonna have a pretty chill weekend.
That's right.
All right. And kind of the last thing, you've been working on dates and locations for all of our competition events in the spring, and you are going to roll those out in November.
So I was working for 1 October. I wanted to open season registration and everyone knows where we're going. And then that thing called say it for me, Shawn, Hurricane
Helene.
Helene, thank you. Très bien, by the way. Um, happened. And when you say working, yes. Hey, you still good? Hey, you still good? Hey, is your trail underwater? And we were close to a Western venue this season. Catawba Meadows was putting 3 to 4 miles of trail in, and it all went underwater. And the whole park like was underwater. So it's like, okay, can't do it. So yeah, I think right now, Shawn, we are aligned for 19 October to release dates and locations to the league. That is the Great Trail State Day in North Carolina. So I thought no better day to recognize the greatness of our trails by announcing where we're going to ride and race some mountain bikes.
Nice. A little bit of serendipity.
There you go.
Awesome.
Now everyone's going to hold me to it. So
Yes. They're gonna be like, you said October 19th.
gonna
The
be
five people that
refreshing the
are
website.
listening,
Yeah,
the
5 a.m.
five people
19.
who are listening right now are like, they're putting that as a reminder in their calendars. They're going to be hitting you up.
They are.
Awesome. Well, got anything else you want to talk about?
I've got one caveat. Let me mention
Oh,
NICA regionals because there was an update this past week. North Carolina was always going to go. We are bringing a team trail core event to regionals for the first ever. Why is that? The folks recognize that our folks are doing great work on trails in North Carolina. We are a well-recognized program across NICA for kind of doing it right, so to speak. So very proud of our folks for putting that together. So we'll go with a Team Trail Core thing for folks to come check out and participate in the expo. But the big change on 7 October, NICA opened race registration to any athlete in NICA in those 11 leagues that are going. It used to be a qualifier. You had to be top 30% of your previous season. You got an invitation, and only those could register. All the categories aren't full, so they want max participation. So it's kind of first come, first serve at this point. But if you like, hey, I'm not sure I want to go, but now I can because I can race them, sign on up and come on up. And I've already talked to all the leadership of that regional event and just saying North Carolina is in a different place than we were a few weeks ago. Some of our registered student athletes out west might not be able to make that trip anymore, and that's a shame. But it might be a good opportunity. Maybe that family can break away for a little bit of
yeah.
time and come together with a massive NICA community for just a ton of fun over 3 days up there in Maryland.
Awesome.
Yep.
Awesome. All right. You know what time it is.
It's everyone's favorite time. Bill Stevens' favorite time, by the way.
Oh, Bill Stevens' favorite time. Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. Well, before that, I do need to share. So were um we were out kind of in the trail trying to assess damage and things like that. And I uh I got bitten by a wolf. And so ran to the ER, and it's kind of, they're like, sit me down, like, what's going on? Doctor comes out and he's like, what happened? I was like, I was bitten by a wolf. And he was like, where? And I was like, no, regular.
October, Halloween, well done. Well done. I'm gonna go topical, current events. One of the I won't call it stars of the show, may not be the right word, but all the Starlinks headed out west to get people communication. League has a Starlink. Big fan. Set it up, turn it on, boom, you got internet. It's pretty cool. And you know, that's Elon Musk's company and he runs SpaceX. So Shawn, I want to know if you heard about the two cleaners that went on the last SpaceX mission.
No.
Probably not because the mission got scrubbed. Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Bill,
Halloween,
thanks
you
for
got
sticking
topical.
all the way to the end for those. And the one or two other people that are still here. Like, that's why you stayed.
There you go. There it is.
Reconsider your life choices. All right. Well, thanks a lot. And as always, we will be communicating after this with a coaches conversation email, and then we will have a coaches call later this month. So two more opportunities to talk with us and get some more information about the season ahead. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Sean.